Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast and the Boss Money Talk series. I'm Ganguzza and I am here with my lovely co-host Danielle Famble. Hello,
Hey,
Danielle.
hey. How you
How
doing?
are you?
I'm good.
Well, I am glad to have you back, and I have a topic for discussion today because I've had on more than one occasion some students recently talk to me about, gosh, I'm just having a hard time finding work, and I don't know if I should continue to stay in this industry because it's just getting too hard. I mean, to sustain it. And so what should I do? And I thought it would be a worthy topic of discussion to talk about, like, this particular industry and how we handle our financial situation in times of inconsistency, because it's just a known fact, guys, bosses out there. It is an inconsistent. It is part of being an entrepreneur. Our income is inconsistent. So what do we do and how do we budget for those times when maybe it's slow or, when it's not slow? And what do we do when we have inconsistent income?
That's such a good question. That's a big part of being a boss, being an entrepreneur, and being in this business. And it's good to give the perspective, one, to your students that you're coaching and to anyone listening. You're not alone. It doesn't mean that you're a bad voice actor. It doesn't mean that you're bad at this business. That is the nature of what it is that we do. And so it has nothing to do with you or your worth or the fact that you're not good. Slow months happen all the time. It happens to the best of us.
And I think it's really something, a point worth mentioning is I've been in this industry about 18 years, and it's always inconsistent. Like, there's not been a year where it hasn't been inconsistent. So It is something that I think if you plan correctly and you're prepared for, it doesn't come as a surprise. And it's something that you can absolutely continue to grow and build your business through inconsistent income. So as long as you plan and strategize.
Yeah, and you just know this is normal. This has not got anything to do with you. This is a normal thing. It reminds me of, I don't know if you know this, Anne, but I used to be a waitress for a long, long time. I was a waitress at comedy clubs. And the way that I made my money was on tips. And so I got used to living on an inconsistent income and realizing that, there's going to be a couple of days or weeks or months where it's going to be great, and then it's going to be slow. Maybe you get cut because it's so slow that they don't need you to be there. But the thing that didn't get cut was my fixed expenses, my rent, my cell phone bill, all of those things.
Yeah.
And so I would say
those are stable.
Figure out what your stable expenses are and make sure that you can keep that as your base. And plan for your base. Anything on top of that, when times are great and when you're making a lot more money, you can use that to keep it to the side for a buffer, but really just know what your base expenses are, which then goes back to our long-standing conversation about knowing your numbers and the data and everything else. If you're too afraid to look at what your expenses are, you're not going to know what your base is that you need to be able to maintain at all times. So really, have the courage, look at what are your expenses that are fixed, that are stable, and know what your base is, and you want to be able to hit your base every single month.
So then budget around your worst month, not your best month.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And the numbers on your worst month can actually, I could say, what are your expenses, and your worst month would be you didn't make anything. Right? So budget around that. That's what I would say, right? That's your worst case scenario. Yeah. And so you'll still need to be able to function. And so what does that mean in terms of, if I don't make any income for an entire month, does that mean I should give up my voiceover business, Danielle?
I don't think so, but I do think that you do need to have some way of knowing that there is income coming in from another form. So maybe it's not the income coming in from your voiceover business because you didn't make anything that month, but you do have a 9-to-5, or you do have a babysitting job, or you do have, you do Uber on the weekends, or what have you. Just know that there needs to be, that money needs to be coming in from somewhere else. Yeah. If it's not coming in from somewhere else, then we need to find, how can we get to our first dollar? Is it in voiceover? Is it in another way of making money? But make sure that you know that there is some income coming in, so that even if the income from your voiceover business is at 0 for the month,
Sure.
you know that there is income coming in from somewhere else that's going to be able to offset and still hit your baseline goal.
And I think your budget, right, for those months, you don't live on that budget. I mean, it should be a budget for a budget that is a low income month, not necessarily like I'm going to continue to go to Starbucks every morning, or I'm going to, maybe that's a necessity. Maybe you feel like that's worked into your bare necessities, but is that something that you're willing to give up in a low income month, or is going out to dinner? I think that's the biggest one. I think like my husband and I be like, okay, we got to stop going out to dinner, right? Because that's an unnecessary expense if we're trying to tighten our budget during a low income month. It's mostly like, oh, and we're going to go out and spend money doing this, or we're going to go out and spend money doing that. And a lot of times it's based around food. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's mine as well. It's food. But then sometimes it's, if you're going to be spending additional money on things in your business, maybe it's that you forego coaching for the next couple of months because you don't really have the money for that. Or maybe you need to forego some other things in your business, some subscriptions that maybe can be paused. It's not just what you're doing in your life. It's also things that you can cut back in your business too.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that you can make sure that I know that my fixed expenses for the operations of me are this. These are the things that will, that are always going to stay the same. My housing, food, basic necessities.
And business expenses.
Expenses.
I'm going to say rocket money. I had a free trial and I used it. It's great for finding out those recurring monthly expenses that you have that all of a sudden that Sirius XM subscription that I have for my car, which I don't drive very often because I work from home. Yeah. Right. But now I can play Sirius XM everywhere. But still, that subscription costs, and it used to only cost like $12.99. Now it's like $25 a month. And so that can help you keep track of those subscriptions that creep up on you that you may or may not be utilizing.
And everything is a subscription nowadays. So
it is.
Really, you have to.
It's really
sneaky, but you can find a lot of unused
hidden
subscriptions,
expenses.
and then you can recoup some of that money back just by saying no thank you to those subscriptions.
And think about your Starbucks as a subscription. Really, if it's something you do every day, I know there's a lot of people that's a daily habit. And, think of that as a subscription. And one other thing I wanted to mention, and I would not have even thought of this really until I incorporated and became an S Corp, but I am required to pay myself a salary. And that's something that, when you're trying to skimp on your budget, or you're trying to figure out your expenses, don't forget you need money to live. You need money to buy the groceries. You need money to pay the rent. And so I think it's always a good idea, even if you're not an S Corp, to really kind of think about, here's the money coming in. A portion of that should be set aside for my expenses, for me, right? That's my salary. And then pay yourself on a set schedule. I think that helps you really get an idea as to, okay, here's the money I need to live on. Here's the money that's profiting in my business. I don't know. It's just one of those things that maybe it's worth it to take a look at.
Absolutely. That should be a core staple that everyone should be doing is, we're doing this, we're in business to make a profit. Right. And so the idea is I need to get paid. Right. And making sure that you pay yourself first so that you are getting used to, and your business is getting used to, that expense.
And that's steady.
Of making sure you're paid. That's the steady. And that's actually how you can stay steady is, okay, I know that I'm going to be paying myself a certain amount every single month. That is the expense of my business to pay me. But that's also how I'm able to pay my bills.
Absolutely.
Keeping that steady. And it doesn't need to be that you wait until you are an S Corp to do that. I would just say try to start doing that as quickly as possible once you have established the fact that you're doing this business. You're in business.
I would not have realized that until, I really started an S Corp, and I should have, actually. Again, I needed to take a look at the numbers because here's the deal. When you do have those lean months, it doesn't come as such a shock. Right. And, understanding that, there's a lean month, but I'm paying myself already. I have a salary that's coming in, and it's not unlike my fellow corporate people. It's not unlike getting your paycheck every week or every other week. Absolutely. So consider, setting aside that money and paying yourself that salary.
And doing it consistently every single month. And to go along with that, paying yourself that salary so you don't get a huge surprise at the end of the year during tax time.
I know what you're saying.
Make sure that you are paying yourself the salary and also putting the money aside or paying taxes.
Yes,
because
such a good idea.
If you wait, that is going to be a surprise, likely to you, where you're not really expecting it, and then you get into a really unfortunate situation where this inconsistent income has caused an inconsistent pattern in how you're paying yourself and how you're putting money to the side. So make sure that when you're paying yourself, you're also making sure to take care of your tax liabilities as well.
Excellent idea. And another thing, as I look at you here in your brand new shiny, sparkly studio, right? Yeah. We've talked about this so many times before, is having that financial cushion, right? Having that emergency fund. But I think honestly, like if you can have more than just that emergency fund, which doesn't get touched under the extreme, circumstances of an emergency, but consider having another fund, which is, just a 1 to 3 cushion fund, right? That you have to live in the event that you have a slow month, right? And having that separate fund where you feel secure and confident that you can take from that fund and you're not dipping into that emergency fund. Because I always feel guilty if I'm dipping into my emergency fund. Well, number one, because my emergency fund is heavily invested in my high yield savings account, which doesn't mean that you can't have a 1 to 3 month cushion also sitting in a high yield savings account. And so I always feel like, I don't want to touch that because I want to keep earning interest on the greatest amount of money possible. Sure, and so that's my emergency fund, but also maybe having a separate fund just for, times are lean this month, and I'm going to say maybe in order to give me better mental health, I do need a Starbucks today, or I do need a pair of earrings today. But I'm going to be caution. I'm going to caution people to not necessarily go out and shop your financial worries away, because that's me. I've definitely been in that trap where I just need to feel better. Let me go out and buy some new clothes or a new lipstick. Try not to do that. But, I think that 1 to 3 month other fund that you have will help you to pay the bills.
Absolutely. And so then you can use sort of a system where you're making sure that when things are inconsistent and times are a little bit leaner and you're not making as much money, you know what your baseline, your core base expenses are. And then when things are going really well and you're making a lot more money and you had a really great month, you put some of that money to the side in that cushion fund that's not your emergency fund. And when things are low, you use that cushion fund to make sure that you're staying afloat. I like that sort of cycle of making sure that you are taking care of yourself. It's not necessarily feast or famine. When things are going really well, you have already looked ahead and taken care of yourself, because you know that this is a cyclical business. This is this is inconsistent. It's an inconsistent income kind of business, and you know that one day you're going to need to use the money that you are currently making. Don't just spend everything that you're making. Put it to the side, so that when it is inconsistent and when it is a slower month, you're pulling from the times when you had a really great month to keep yourself in balance. And that's, I think, the way to do it is you should look at this month or any given month as, am I taking care of me now, or am I taking care of me now and me in the future? Sure, but absolutely. Always make sure that you are doing that delicate balance.
Speaking of, setting aside money for taxes and setting aside, that money, don't forget about retirement. Guys, don't forget about a retirement fund. And honestly, one thing I want to say is that, and I'm not a money girl, right? Or I never thought of myself as a money girl. But can I just tell you, the software companies are making it easier and easier. Like, your credit cards are now categorizing your spending, right? Because of course they want you to use the credit card more. So they're going to categorize it, and you can find out where your expenses are going. And if you use the credit card, you can get 3% back, blah, 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 blah. They want to encourage credit card spending, but also you can use that as a method for really finding out where is all your money going, right? And that, and QuickBooks, like I never thought, like QuickBooks Online, like you can generate a report, literally a report in a matter of seconds seconds. Whereas before, it used to be really difficult, man. If you were doing like spreadsheets, and I don't know, Danielle, I can't remember what product you use, but I mean, I need something simple, something that does the work for me. Some people are really hardcore and go right into the Excel spreadsheet, and that's how they track their budget. Yeah. But like for me, I generate a report really quickly in QuickBooks, and it tells me, oh my gosh, I spent so much money this month on my expenses going out versus what was coming in. And so I can really then make an educated and strategized decision based upon those reports. And I can generate those reports at the flick of a button. And even if I hate finances, right, which I know a lot of people don't like to look at their money. Yeah. It's, again, one of those things. This is your business, and it is something that if you're not looking at it, pay somebody else to do it, like my accountant, right? So, and then talk with your accountant and say, hey, look, where's all my money going? Or I found that I had a slow month, and then have that weekly meeting or that monthly meeting that says, here, okay, they can break it down for you and say, look, they can generate the reports, and they can say, look, here's what you're spending on lipstick, Anne, or here's what you're spending on restaurants going out, and here's where you can maybe potentially save money, or think about taking this money that you have left over and putting it into this type of an investment account.
Mm-hmm. And taking care of future you. So you've got sort of the shorter term future you of this 1 to 3 months cushion for when times are lean. You've got your emergency fund, which usually I say it's 6 to 8 months. I say closer to, for me, 6 to 8 months, which is a pretty big emergency fund, but that's because we're self-employed, and so I want to have a pretty good cushion. Or the longer term fund being your retirement. And there are ways, depending on how you have it set up, where if you're investing in your retirement account, that helps you in tax time, because it might lower the amount that you are paying on your taxes. So it is always forward looking. It's looking at what's happening today, and it's looking at what would be happening in the shorter term future or longer term future, and how can you use the windfall that you have or maybe are not experiencing now. How can you use that to keep you afloat, with your core base expenses? But it really is, again, going back to, do you know what those core base expenses are? And how can you stay, level with them?
Right.
And if you need to dip into the bank of you, then you can do that with no shame and no problem, knowing that you've already done the work to take care of yourself.
Now, from a girl that's a little less of a money girl to a girl who is a money girl, one thing that always sneaks up on me are those annual fees or the recurring, subscriptions, or that come up once a year. Because I went from, let's not do it every month. Let's save and let's do yearly subscriptions. But every once in a while, if I'm not paying attention, that yearly subscription will come up and it'll be taken out of my account, and I'll be like, whoa. How do you prepare yourself for those things? So talk about how you prepare.
Some of those things, we use the word like surprise expenses.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like, these are super knowable things. Like, I signed up for that credit card that has that high annual fee. Yeah. It was me. It wasn't like somebody impersonating me, right? So if it's a large expense that is a knowable expense, I typically will put a calendar alert in a month in advance so that I can remind myself that this is coming. For example, my credit cards, I have the American Express Platinum card, I have the American Express Gold card, and they have very high annual fees. And for some reason, I applied for them around the same time of the year in different years. So the annual fees, they come and they hit roughly right one after the other. Yeah. And I always think to myself, Danielle, what did you do? Why did you do that?
Why did you do that right in the same time?
What were you doing in December that you really needed?
Yeah, right.
And that's, my own personal journey, but I know that it's coming. So I can prepare either a little bit every single month to make sure I'm ready for that, or because I've given myself that calendar alert saying, hey, Danielle, just so you know, this is coming up next month. I'm already mentally and financially prepared that that hit is about to happen. Most of those, subscriptions, those annual subscriptions, those are things that are knowable expenses, albeit big expenses. So your calendar is your very best friend.
Yeah, I
Give
agree.
yourself the heads up and know that it's coming.
I agree. I live by my calendar anyway for a day-to-day schedule of things that I'm doing. And I think if you have a calendar, a financial calendar, I mean, my goodness. I mean, you could make an easy financial calendar. I use Google Calendar for everything, and they're color-coded. When do I have, coaching sessions? When do I have monthly workouts coming up? When do I have all of these things, holidays and that sort of thing? So you could have a financial calendar that has all of your subscription renewals and or your monthly costs, like those base costs that we talked about, so that you're prepared. This month, I'm going to plan on spending this amount of money. And also, again, it's one of those things that if you have an accounting software, that can be generated in an accounting software easily, your monthly budget. And,
Absolutely.
It's something that you need to and again, I'm talking from a girl who I'm not a money girl, but I have to force myself to do that and take a hard look at what's going out every month and how can I cut. And I recently just said, okay, how can I trim the budget in my company? Because I had been like, oh, let me try this software. I'm a big risk taker, Danielle, and we talk about this thing.
I hoard software too.
Yeah, I buy software subscriptions. I try things out and then I forget about them sometimes, right? I was like, oh, I haven't used it. I tried that out. I paid for the subscription. I forgot about it. So every once in a while I have to revisit what am I putting my money into, and has it given me a return on my investment? And if not, I need to trim the fat. And so I did that more recently so that I could have money to invest in something different. So again, I invest in people who work for me, and again, I wanted to invest in some additional advertising, and so I needed to get that money from somewhere, right? So I had to kind of figure out, where can I consolidate my expenses, right? Can I now that I've evolved in my business so many years, maybe I don't need I don't need as much social media. Maybe I don't need, that monthly subscription to this particular, pay to play. Am I really using this pay to play? And again, figure out where's my money coming in? Where am I making the most of my money? And do I want to reinvest my money coming into getting more of that? Or do I want to diversify and maybe explore another genre of voiceover? Or I want to get more voiceover work in this particular genre. What's it going to take for me to get there? Yeah. So I think really, again, taking a look at the money. And if you hate looking at money, I suggest, even if you hate looking at money, it's something that you got to do. Consider it an education in running your own business. Really, I
would consider, if you hate looking at money, that you really need to look at money.
Yeah, right. This is true.
If you don't like it, then you really need to do it.
If you don't like it, that's a flag. That's a flag that you should look at it.
Run toward it.
Yeah.
Run toward it.
I love it. Yeah.
I was told by my financial advisor to have money dates with myself, and I think what you're talking about would be a really great thing to do twice a year.
Yeah.
Really take a really in-depth look of what you're spending your money on and where you're faring in terms of these sinking funds, these mini emergency fund or emergency fund, so that you know where you need to divert more of your money in the good months, in the months where you're making so much more money than you planned for. That's really a great thing to do. And I would say once or twice a year to reevaluate that, because maybe your 1 to 3 month or your short-term emergency fund, let's say, is about a couple $1,000s under. So okay, you know what? Why don't I put my money and my focus on beefing that up so that when we have these inconsistent months or when we have lower months, I know that I'm good. You won't know until you take the time to really look at it. So give yourself the date, the money date of taking a real look at your money and knowing your numbers about what is your core expenses, what can you maybe trim or what can you press pause on, and then what can you run toward when it's time and when you have the money for it.
I love
the idea of sinking funds.
Yeah.
You have a fund specifically for your education, for your just slower months, for things that you do when you book that really big job and maybe you want to take yourself on a nice, nice dinner or something like that, like ways to celebrate. You can have multiple of these sinking funds. That's what I like about some of these online accounts, where you can have a bank account that will give you an unlimited number of smaller, virtual accounts where you can just put that money.
I love
to the
that.
side.
That's great.
It's a really great hack
that's a new concept. And what I like about how you're talking and you're phrasing this whole conversation is you're talking about funds, right? You're talking about fund accounts versus when and I don't know if this is just me and my age, but like whenever I was talked about, well, you need to set up a budget, that had a negative connotation. And that meant that I wasn't making the money that I should have been making, or I was, you know what I mean? I was somehow lacking in whatever it went, mostly in money, right? I was lacking in money and the ability to either manage my money or whatever it was, but it had a negative connotation. And I think that we need to reframe that whole concept. Again, if we talk about like money blocks, right? It could be a form of a money block. And in reality, the term budget you can rephrase it to say, your money funds or your fund accounts or
your
just
permission.
Just think really about budgeting. That it's giving you more of like a permission to celebrate it because you are strategizing. You are creating a future with a purpose. Yes. And your purpose is focused, strategized, and smart.
Absolutely. And it's purposeful. It's what you have decided that you're going to do. So budgeting, for me, when I think about it, it's what am I deciding that I'm going to be spending my money on? And this money is allocated towards that thing that I already decided. It's not restrictive. If you can take it away, if you take away the concept that a budget is restricting you, it's not restricting you. It's where you have already pre-purposed and determined where your money is going to go.
I love that.
And then you just do as
then it gives you freedom.
It gives you freedom. And it puts you in the driver's seat. Yeah. You decided that you want to spend your money on
And isn't that what we
or whatever.
Isn't that what we decided, bosses, right? We are in the driver's seat. We are the boss.
Totally.
And, you need to be the boss of all aspects of this business. And I think if you really take a look at your budgets and or your funding accounts, and I love what you just said about the virtual accounts there, Danielle. That's a concept that I actually was not aware of. So now I'm going to be researching that because I love that. I love being able to it's like my content buckets for social media, right? This is going to be my fund buckets for Anne's lipstick. No, for for my business, right? For that Starbucks account. I've got money in it. So I think that really gives us a much clearer strategy and purpose when really, looking at our business. And again, I always want to go forward and move forward in your business. And this is one way that you guys can get there.
Absolutely.
So
totally. You are in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
These are not things happening to you.
Right.
You can make the decision as to where you spend your money, when it comes, and if you need to dip into the bank of you so that future you is taken care of because the you of today did the work to make sure that they were taking care of future you. That's what I love about being an entrepreneur is that I'm taking responsibility for myself and taking care of responsibility of myself today and also future me by putting money into the spending buckets or to the sinking funds, to my retirement account, to my emergency fund. And then I am making these financial decisions with me in mind because that's my job is to take care of myself and also the people that are around me that I touch with my business, with my life, with my purpose.
And with that lovely words of wisdom, Danielle, I am going to thank you so much. What a great conversation.
Yeah, this is a great conversation.
Love it, love it, love it. Bosses, I'm going to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You two can connect and network like the money boss that Danielle is. I absolutely love it. I loved our conversation. Thank you again. Bosses, have an amazing week, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.